humanity inside of Boehner. He cries talking about Nancy Pelosi. Here it is.
My team here in Washington, and Madam Speaker, I have to say, my girls told me, tell the Speaker how much we admire her. Said we couldn't tell my girls are Democrats.
Now let me do this. I have seen the social media post. I have seen the rhetoric back and forth. Boehner obviously is worthy of criticism for the policy positions he took. He is, he's worthy of that criticism. In addition to that, he is also worthy of at least an observation of respect. What he did there was authentic, it was sincere, genuine, possibly connected to the guilt he felt while being leader, speaker, and also a promoter of the virus that currently exists in our political structure. John Boehner choked up Wednesday as he told House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she's still currently technically House Speaker, I believe, how much his daughters admire her during a special ceremony. A portrait of Pelosi was unveiled at the Capitol to honor her. Pelosi is the first woman to serve as House Speaker. She held the gavel from 2007 until 2011 when Boehner took it after the 2010 midterms. She took it back in 2019 during former President Donald Trump's term in office, and will no longer hold a Democratic leadership post after next month. Boehner, who is obviously an establishment Republican, just as Pelosi is an establishment Democrat, was in Washington for the ceremony. He celebrated his one-time Democratic rival and was emotional as he spoke from the podium. You've been unfailingly gracious to me, to my family, and frankly, my team here in Washington, he said. And Madam Speaker, I have to say, my girls told me, tell the Speaker how much we admire her. Boehner began to cry and was met with applause. If you couldn't tell, my girls are Democrats, he joked. Later added, no other Speaker of the House in the modern era, Republican or Democrat, has wielded the gavel with such authority or with such consistent results. Let me just say, you are one tough cookie, he continued. You and I have disagreed politically on many things over the years, but we were never disagreeable to each other. As you might have heard me say before, you can disagree without being disagreeable. Let me also go to some other compliments he laid out to Nancy Pelosi. Here it is.
But there's another side of you, Madam Speaker, as well. As leader of the other party opposite you during many of your years in leadership, I occasionally got to see and experience something few others get to see. And that was your grace when the cameras were off. And when the moment called for us to rise above politics and stand together as colleagues to do what was in the interest of the House and frankly, what was in the interest of the country.
Those days are no more. As a matter of fact, even during the days of Boehner and Pelosi, well, they were still basically carrying the agenda of corporations first, constituents second. Now listen, some people will criticize me because this is supposed to be a moment of great celebration. We celebrate civility, but at what cost? I'm a civil individual, but I'm okay with argumentation when required. I'm a civil person, but I'm okay with aggression when required. I'm a civil individual, but I'm okay with civil disobedience when required. Please understand this, the context. Nancy Pelosi, Boehner, and other mainstream politicians, they represent a political agenda that may be contrary to the common good of all. Keep in mind, as it stands right now, we have a Republican Party that is a mirror image in many ways of the KKK in their ideology, their proclamation of replacement theory doctrine, and the likes. And then you have a Democratic opposition. Well, they're so busy trying to make sure they continue to hold the course of Democratic politics and not offend their corporate friends or their allies and interests, that they decide to basically cut out, put on an island progressives who are willing to fight these impossible fights, who are not afraid of the major corporations, who have not been purchased by various interests. That is worthy of contextualization as well. I'm happy to see a happy moment in a political construct between two individuals who represent opposing views. But are the views truly opposing when both of them receive money from the same corporate cats? Are they? The lines have been blurred, ladies and gentlemen. So while I can celebrate the reality of first, Nancy Pelosi was the first woman we've had in that position in the United States of America. We can celebrate that. That is inspirational for many, including myself and obviously my daughter. But beyond the moment, what is the movement? What changes beyond the right now? Because that moment will not put food on the table of a poor person. That moment will not shelter a family who's currently unsheltered. That moment will not transform the reality of our criminal justice system in America. But it could be a good place to start. All right, thoughts here.
Yeah, I know, I totally agree. I mean, I think you said all that needs to be said. Look, I do think Boehner was sincere in those tears, and I think he's not joking. I bet his daughters are Democrats, right? Given today's Republican Party. But you just said it. These are two characters, two figures, Nancy Pelosi and John Boehner, that are leaders of a bygone era in so-called bipartisanship, corporate bipartisanship. They oversaw their parties, and they have overseen their parties, uphold the status quo. And Boehner is no longer really relevant in his party because his party is so extreme. What did he oversee? He oversaw, however, the seeding, the sowing of the Tea Party, of Obama obstructionism, right? And yet he and Obama were they did like chummy little videos together. He and Nancy Pelosi were chummy. So it was sort of like, backstabbing, but with, a smile. And now it's just backstabbing. And honestly, sometimes I kind of prefer just the hood off, as we've said about this Republican Party. I just prefer them to be straight up about what they were doing when Obama was in office, which was effectively calling him a foreigner, a terrorist, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all the kinds of racism and xenophobia. So it's just, you just see the sun is set, at least for the Republican Party, the sun is set on Boehner. The sun has set a little too late, in my opinion, on someone like Pelosi. And it is time for us to offer an actual fight against the hard right Republicans that someone like Boehner oversaw the sort of the beginnings of, the origin story of.
I think that's very well said. And I would like to highlight one point before I move to the next story. It is not a coincidence that Boehner and other Republicans utilize this ridiculous narrative against former President Obama by saying he was somehow not actually an American. Others said he was a terrorist. There's commentary that he was the Antichrist. And they did not reject these notions. They did not stand up and say, stop it, to their constituency. They didn't do it. They allowed their base to continue to promote this mess because it continued to protect and help them retain power. And then what happened? Donald Trump was the last holdout. He was the last person to let it go. Donald Trump continued to say, no, I need to see a birth certificate. When other Republicans said, we've let it go, Trump did not. Trump became their champion. The message created by individuals like Boehner and others became the very catalyst for the popularity of Donald Trump. All right,